Hi everyone, and welcome to my crash course video on the Enlightenment thinkers. Okay, so in this video, we will be reviewing 7 different Enlightenment thinkers and what effect did their beliefs have on the history of Europe and the world. So these 7 thinkers are Adam Smith, John Locke, Thomas Hobbes, Montesquieu, Jacques Rousseau, Voltaire, and Mary Wollstonecraft. Also, disclaimer, this video will get kind of long, so feel free to pause whenever. So first of all, what is the Enlightenment? To give a quick overview, the Enlightenment was an intellectual and philosophical movement during the 17th and 18th centuries where ideas challenged God, reason, nature, and humanity. This age of enlightenment eventually led to revolutions that led way to the new era of Romanticism. Many of the thinkers during the Enlightenment were focused on the government of their times, which affected people's attitudes about the government greatly. Alright, let's jump right into the first thinker, Adam Smith. So who exactly is this dude? Adam Smith was born on June 16, 1723, and he died on July 17, 1790. He was a Scottish economist who is seen today as the father of capitalism. Capitalism is an economic system where a country's trade are controlled by private owners rather than the state. However, I will expand more how this relates to Adam Smith later. So let's start way back into Adam Smith's childhood. So he was around 14 years old when he was studying moral philosophy. And one day he was like, hey, liberty, reason, and free speech seems pretty cool. Oh, and he was also religiously tolerant. Adam Smith was against the famous system of mercantilism of the time, and he believed that more wealth to the common people will overall benefit a nation's economy and society as a whole. This eventually led him to write The Wealth of Nations. So what is the Wealth of Nations, you may or may not be asking, but you should be asking? Well, to give a brief explanation of the book, The Wealth of Nations is more or less Adam Smith asking how countries can create their wealth. It also addresses economic principles that explain the roles of factors of production in the creation of wealth. Or, to put it in more simpler terms, Adam Smith wanted a free market economy. And a free market economy is basically an economic system based on supply and demand with little government control. So, how does all of this relate to Adam Smith affecting the history of Europe and the world? Well, he ended up being extremely important to the Industrial Revolution, which took place in Europe and the USA, when the manufacturing of goods moved from small shops and homes to large factories. Since trade had gone global, it would have been much slower if Adam Smith had not promoted free and open trade. Alright, so the next thinker to be introduced is John Locke. He was born on August 29, 1632, and he died on October 28, 1704. He was an English philosopher who is seen today as the father of liberalism. So liberalism is a doctrine that protects the freedom of an individual. So Locke's beliefs really started coming to play after associating himself with Anthony Ashley Cooper in college, which led Locke to become a government official. Locke believed that people had natural rights such as equality, liberty, life, and ownership of land. So Locke's work, The Second Treatise of Government, is one of his more famous works that show his beliefs. To simplify the book in general, it is about civil, natural, and property rights and the jobs of the government to protect these rights. Oh, and not only did Locke argue that the government should serve the people, the man wanted to separate the church and the state. So, you may be wondering, why does this even matter? Well, these ideas from John Locke are super important because they highly influenced the colonies formulating in America. Since Locke basically identified the basis of a legitimate government in the Second Treatise of Government, people like Thomas Jefferson were completely and utterly shook AF. So when Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, you know, that paper that explains why the colonies should break away from Britain? Yeah, that one. Jefferson had good old Locke in mind. Alright, So the next thinker to be introduced is Thomas Hobbes, and not the cartoon Hobbes. This guy is like low-key the opposite of John Locke. He was born on April 5th, 1588, and he died on December 4th, 1679. Hobbes grew up during the English Civil War, which influenced his thoughts and his beliefs. Hobbes thought that the only true and correct form of government was an absolute monarchy. He thought that humans are selfish creatures from their core. That's kind of rough, though. And so he wrote Leviathan, which, to put it simply, argued for a social contract and rule by an absolute sovereign. In the book, Hobbes wrote that civil war, such as the occurring English Civil War at the time, could only be avoided by a strong, undivided government. This was the opposite of Locke, who believed that individuals have the right to life. So, how did Thomas Hobbes influence Europe or the world? In Europe, his ideas led to more investigations and thought by John Hobbes, who expanded more on Hobbes' ideas. Beyond Europe, Hobbes influenced the colonies in the U.S. Constitution. Hobbes' ideas of having a strong government to prevent chaos and the government having the right to defend themselves from opposing governments is seen especially in the Second Amendment of the Constitution, which states that a well-regulated militia is necessary to the security of a free state. The next thinker that will be introduced is the one and only Baron Montesquieu. As you can probably tell from the name, Montesquieu was a French political philosopher. So he was born on January 18, 1689, and he died on February 10, 1755. Montesquieu grew up during a time where many governmental changes were being made. These changes were England declaring itself a constitutional monarchy, and Louis XV succeeding his father Louis XIV in France. With all of these changes, Montesquieu presented the idea of dividing the government power into three branches, or also known as the separation of powers. He thought that by separating the government into three and giving them equal power, the government would distribute its power equally. These branches were the executive, legislative, and judicial branches. With all these beliefs, Montesquieu decided to write The Spirit of Laws. To put it short, the book was about political liberty and the best way of preserving it. So, what is political liberty, you may be asking? Well, to establish it, two things are required. The first one is the separation of power, and the second one is the framing of law to ensure security. Montesquieu's beliefs can clearly be seen in America today, with the three parts of the United States federal government being executive, legislative, and judicial. It can clearly be seen how the U.S. government relates to Montesquieu. The next thinker to be introduced is Jacques Rousseau. He was a philosopher born on June 28, 1712, and died on July 2, 1778. Rousseau was similar to John Locke in believing that democracy was the only form of government that would give individuals freedom. Who is Rousseau, though? Is he only a copycat of Locke? Well, the answer is both yes and no. In a way, Rousseau is like Locke with having similar ideas. However, he is different because Rousseau was able to take Locke's ideas and expand on them. He believed that people are all born innocent, but get corrupted by civilization, which influences their beliefs. And so, Rousseau wrote The Social Contract, which describes how civil society suppresses the natural birthright of man. To put it in more simpler terms, civilization corrupts our natural thought. With these ideas, Rousseau impacted government throughout the world and Europe alike through the advancement of the philosophy of social contract. Through Rousseau's work of the social contract, he was able to influence despotic governments to convert to democratic institutions. Okay, so moving on from Rousseau, the next thinker to be introduced in this crash course video is Voltaire. So he was a French philosopher who was born on November 21st, 1694, and he died on May 30th, 1778. So, just like Rousseau, Voltaire shared similar ideas with John Locke. These ideas were supporting the freedom of individuals. However, rather than expanding on how corruption is formed through uncivil civilizations like Rousseau, Voltaire expanded more on the corruption of the church and state. Voltaire was a tremendous believer of civil rights, or more specifically, freedom of speech and freedom of religion. Voltaire wanted the government to protect people's basic rights, which included the freedom of speech and religion, so he called for the separation of the church and state. In Europe, Voltaire's ideas affected the French Revolution as he encouraged people to fight against the church without guilt. In the Constitution of the United States of America, Voltaire affected the First Amendment of free speech. Who knew so many Enlightenment thinkers influenced the USA Declaration? Finally, we have gotten to the one and only theme of this whole entire crash course video, Mary Wollstonecraft. So she was an English advocate of women's rights, aka a feminist. Though Wollstonecraft lived a short life actually, she was born on 1769 and passed away in 1797. So who exactly is this girl, and why is she considered an enlightened thinker when she's a female? Well, first of all, why should gender matter than human worth? And second of all, Wollstonecraft is an enlightened thinker because she argued that women are not inferior to men, but only appear to be because of lack of education. Wollstonecraft pushed for the equal treatment of both men and women and wanted more educational opportunities. The actions of Wollstonecraft affected both Europe and the world, as she made one of the first attempts to assert women's equality. The more immediate effects of Wollstonecraft is getting more education opportunities for females. Without Wollstonecraft asserting her equality, the world could potentially be different from how it is now with the Me Too movement. Okay, so this concludes this crash course video on the Enlightenment. I hope you learned a lot about these thinkers, and thank you so much for watching.